Hey guys, Corey here. I decided to do a video about my experience with Grubhub, UberEats, and Doordash. I've been doing it for about a year now. Specifically, I've been doing Uber Eats the longest, a little over a year. The other one's not quite as long. And I kind of just wanted to share my experience and whether this side hustle is worth it in 2023. So I'm trying to make a video that's as comprehensive as possible, but I also don't want to make it too long. I want to make it concise because I know that your time is valuable. Alright, so kind of the reason I got into food delivery was I started graduate school about a little over a year and a half ago, and I was looking for side hustles because I couldn't have a full-time job, so just kind of a way to make side income. I had previously done things like eBay. I've been doing eBay for many years, selling things on eBay, but unfortunately me being in a dorm kind of room, I don't have a ton of extra room to do that, so that's not very conducive to where I live right now. I had also tried stuff like online surveys, which again is kind of hit or miss because to me, you just can't really make too much effective money that way. It's a lot of work for not a lot of money. So I had heard about food delivery for a while, and I was very apprehensive at first because my car, I only have one car right now. It's already very old, and it had very high mileage, and I just wanted to avoid the wear and tear on it. But after a while, I said, what the heck, I'll try it out, see how it goes. That's kind of how I started with food delivery. I also originally only started with Uber Eats because at the time my location was not hiring Doordash or Instacart. I eventually signed up for Doordash later, and as far as I know, they are not hiring for Instacart right now. Alright, so overall, when I say the money you make with food delivery apps is going to depend, I really mean that. It really is going to depend on several factors. There were times when I was delivering for a full day, 10 to 12 hours, where I would barely crack $100, and there were other times where I worked less hours than that and I made over $300, especially in the summer. And keep in mind, this is with me going non-stop, no breaks whatsoever, just drop off one order onto the next one. So it's really going to depend on your geographic location and really what kind of market you have in your area. I'm not gonna say exactly where I live right now, but if you message me, if you send me a message, I'll let you know where I am. Just to give you context, I live in a middle to upper middle class area of the United States, and where I live, we get a lot of seasonal people in the summer, and these people have a lot of money, and with that, they tend to order a lot. So I'm kind of atypical in that sense, in that I actually tend to make a lot in the summer due to these seasonal people, whereas overall you hear of orders dropping off in the summer because people have the summer off, they can go out more, the weather's nicer, that kind of thing. The other thing to keep in mind is restaurants in your area. So there are a decent amount of restaurants in my area. Unfortunately, where I live right now, I have to drive about 30 to 40 miles to get to a really nice area with a lot of restaurants. There are some restaurants near me, but as far as consistent orders, the consistency is not really there. But if I do drive about 30 minutes, I can find a lot of restaurants with consistent orders. Can you do this in a secluded area with not a lot of restaurants? You could, it's just probably gonna be not as consistent. The second thing to keep in mind is the car you drive, and this is a very important thing. Unfortunately, right now my only car is a 2008 Audi A4 with very high mileage, and it only takes premium gas, and where I live right now, premium is at least $4 a gallon or around $4 a gallon. So your biggest expenses, from what I've seen, are gonna be gas and maintenance for sure. I've definitely had to bring in my car a lot more often for oil changes, tire rotations, that kind of thing. You really need to keep track of all the maintenance that you do on your car and when maintenance is due for your car. I didn't calculate the exact amount of wear and tear that I've put on my car, but in a little over a year, I've spent about $3,500 in repairs on my car. Granted, I have a German luxury car, even though it's older. It is very expensive to bring it in. It's definitely something you want to keep in mind when delivering, you know, how much wear and tear. And for context, my car is probably only worth about $2,000 right now. And again, you might be thinking, why would I want to do this if I'm putting so much wear and tear on my car? Again, it's going to depend on many different things. Unfortunately, since I'm in school right now, I don't have a house with a garage where I can do repairs on my own car, which I used to do. I have to take in my car for almost everything now, so it definitely adds up. And obviously, if you do your own maintenance, you're gonna end up saving a ton of money in the long run. So have I still netted more money than I've spent on repairs and gas? Yes, absolutely. I definitely have. These are the things you need to keep in mind. If I could recommend a car, I recommend a Japanese car that's reliable and consistent, like a Honda or a Toyota. Something that is going to be cheaper to maintain, that gets better gas mileage, and will ultimately cost less to operate with this kind of job. Especially something like a Toyota Prius that gets very good gas mileage, because you're going to be putting a lot of mileage on your car, spending a lot on gas. Keep in mind that I also only do this part-time. I don't do this full-time. If you're doing this full-time, then I would definitely recommend a car like that. Another thing that I highly recommend that you should do every time when you go out is use a mileage tracking app like Gridwise. And the reason you do this is because we are considered independent contractors, and you can write off the mileage you accrue while delivering on your taxes, because when it comes tax time, there's definitely going to be a tax impact when you get your 1099 form. It's not a W-2 because we're independent contractors as far as I know, but you definitely want to keep track of your mileage. I actually just did a rough calculation of the tax impact, and it looks like I made a little over $1,000 in a year, and I could be completely wrong on this, but the rough tax impact was about $1,200. Does that mean I owe $1,200 in taxes? Not necessarily. It just means this is the tax impact I have when I go to file my taxes. Again, I'm not doing this full time. If I was doing it full time, I probably would be making a lot more than $11,000 a year. Now, as far as platforms go, out of these 3 food delivery platforms, or apps if you will, I personally like UberEats the best, at least in my area. I just like the ease of scheduling. You can literally go on whenever you want. Obviously, there's certain times and days where it's going to be busier than others. I feel with Grubhub and Doordash, it's a little bit trickier with scheduling. Also with Uber, the payout function is a lot easier, and it's only 50 cents if I can remember correctly, and you can cash out as soon as you get your money, up to 4 times a day, which is great. Something to keep in mind is that a lot of these apps, especially Uber, I think I've only had this happen with Uber so far, is that you can deliver alcohol as well. And I've done that with Uber a couple times. For me, alcohol delivery is a little hit or miss. You can make decent money with it. It's, you know, it's an added thing besides food that will help you make money through, they partner with Drizzly and Postmates. So it can be good. Just keep in mind that you're actually going to have to engage with the person face to face, and they're going to have to show their ID and then ultimately sign for the order. Sometimes this can be an issue, not just with alcohol, but in general. If their ID is not registering when you take a picture, it's just kind of a hassle. Sometimes it takes time, especially if you're delivering in a place with not very good cell reception. You might have to borrow the person's Wi-Fi. It's just difficult because when the connection is not good and you have to have them do multiple steps, it's just something more that you have to worry about. Whereas with regular food delivery, you usually just take a picture and then off you go. So alcohol is okay. Alcohol deliveries are okay, but it can definitely be hit or miss. I also wanted to say that just today I signed up for the UberEats Plus card, which is basically like Instacart, where someone can place an order. You go in and either get food from the store or order something from a restaurant, and you pay for the item on your phone, and you can pay with a digital credit card, if you will. They might also mail something to a card in the mail, and you can pay with that as well. I just signed up for this today, but I heard you can make more money with it, so we'll see how it goes and I'll let you know. Next up is Grubhub, and Grubhub for me is kind of a mixed bag. I think out of the three, Grubhub definitely pays the best. And the other thing I like about Grubhub is that it tells you the total amount that your order will be, whereas Uber can kind of depend. It'll give you a rough amount, but the tip could change, things could change. Grubhub will tell you the total amount. Unfortunately with Grubhub, I don't particularly care for the map. It's very like outdated. It doesn't update where you need to go. It doesn't always tell you where the pickup and the drop off is right off the bat. You also have to set a zip code. So if you go out of that zip code, you either will not get as many orders, it becomes a hassle. So Grubhub does tend to pay the best, tends to pay the highest, but it's also not as consistent. And then finally there's Doordash, which for me, again, this is just me personally, Doordash is probably my least favorite app out of the three. There can be good orders during the lunch and dinner rushes, but for me, Doordash is just kind of difficult to navigate. The navigation system is very wonky. I also don't like that right off the bat, you have to make several deliveries. I don't know if it's 20 or so before they even allow you to cash out on your own. Otherwise, you have to wait like a typical job where they pay you a certain day of the week. It's usually the next Monday. You can eventually get it to where you cash out, but it's $2, which is the most expensive for a cash out of any of the apps. The other thing you have to keep in mind is that you have to usually choose a dash time. You can't really just jump on the app and get orders whenever you want. You can, but you're probably not gonna get very good ones. So DoorDash is also the trickiest to deal with as far as scheduling. And DoorDash also probably has the least consistent amount of orders, at least in my area and what I've seen. Another big thing that people don't talk a lot about in videos is the different apps' functionality. And this is something that's really important, especially for me with UberEats. I've had the app kind of glitch out, and this has happened even while I'm delivering an item, and the app will glitch and it won't show me where the delivery address is, and I need to drop off the food, and it just becomes a huge hassle. It'll just randomly stop working. The functionality will definitely vary. It will also depend what kind of cell service you have. I have a newer Android Galaxy, and even with a phone that's not even a year old, I've had to either cancel an order or restart my phone because of the app just glitching out and not showing me where I need to go. So I highly recommend before you drive each time that you reset your phone, and hopefully you have good connectivity where you're going to deliver. This could also potentially lower the amount of orders you have because the app is glitching out and not showing everything due to internet connectivity. So the ultimate question is food delivery worth it in 2023 and beyond? In my opinion, yes, it is. You are going to spend a lot on gas and ultimately maintenance, but if you're smart about it, you really can make a good side income with this type of side hustle. I don't do this full time, so I can't really speak on that, but as far as like side income, I love the flexibility. I love that I don't have to show up to a job on certain days. I love how I can just turn it on when I want, turn it off when I want. As long as you keep in mind the expenses that you're gonna have to pay, and also the wear and tear on your car, which is really important. You need to understand this is going to put tremendous wear and tear on your car. If you're okay with that, then yes, you can definitely make some great money. I've also kind of compiled a list of tips and tricks for you guys that will kind of help you be better drivers and just help you even if you're just starting out. So the best times to deliver are gonna be the lunch rush, which is about 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Obviously, this is when people have lunch, they tend to order food, so that's a busy time. Another busy time is the dinner rush, which is about 5 to 8 p.m. when people tend to get dinner. These just tend to be busier times. People are going to be ordering more. You can get orders in the interim, but this is just usually where there's more orders. I also tend to deliver on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. These are days I have off anyway, but the weekend tends to be busier in general. Ultimately, you'll get more orders and make more money. You can deliver during the weekdays, and I've made okay money during the weekdays, but generally the weekend is where it's at with money, unless there's some kind of inclement weather, which brings me to my next point. There tends to be more deliveries when the weather is bad, such as when it's raining or snowing, just because people don't want to go out and get food for whatever reason. So keep this in mind. Stacked orders for me are kind of a hit or miss. What stacked orders means is that you're either getting 2 orders from the same restaurant for 2 different people, or you're getting 2 different orders from 2 different restaurants to the same person or to 2 different people. Basically, it's more than one item in an order that you need to deliver. These can be kind of hit or miss. You definitely want to see what the prospective payout is and then determine whether stacked orders are going to be worth it for you, because they tend to take more time. Different people are going to tell you different cutoffs for what they accept for an order. Typically, I just look at whether it's going to be more than minimum wage or not. $15 an hour is the minimum wage where I live here. Now, ideally, I want to make more than that, especially during the rush times like lunch and dinner. You want to make 20 plus an hour, preferably more, closer to 30. But again, this is going to depend greatly. There's also people that do it by mileage. I try not to drive more than $1 a mile, if that makes sense, for each order, but it's going to depend. But typically I just try to keep it more than minimum wage, and that will determine whether or not I think the order is worth it. I also try to keep deliveries in as short a range as possible. I try not to take deliveries that are more than about 10 miles in any direction, especially because you could be going 10 miles out of the hotspot zone, which means you're gonna have to drive back. Just keep in mind, you don't always want to take orders that are really far away unless they pay really well, and it's just more time and money that you're spending on gas to drive out somewhere. I just try to make my deliveries as short as possible so I can drop it off and move on to the next customer. There's also a couple promotions, especially the ones I've seen with Uber, such as free tuition at ASU. They had a promotion for a free year of Costco Gold membership, which I used, which you can only use if you've never signed up for Costco before, but that's good. It's a $60 value, something like that. So there's definitely perks for delivering if you're doing well with delivering. There are going to be times when people cancel an order, and what happens after that is going to depend. Usually Uber is very good at paying you out if you're in the middle of doing an order, if you've already driven to the place that you're gonna drop off. For example, I had an alcohol order once where I picked everything up, took it to the drop-off location, and again, the app was glitching out. I wasn't able to deliver the alcohol. I had to return it, but Uber paid me the full amount that I would have got if I delivered it. I just had to bring the item back. For food, you're probably not going to be able to bring it back, but sometimes you can get paid if a customer cancels an order. It's just going to depend. And then finally, it definitely helps to have an insulated bag. I personally bought mine on Amazon. It was only about $25, and it's one of the best purchases I've made. And this is a really good investment because number one, it keeps your food either warm or cold, which is good because you want the food insulated. And number two, it also prevents food from spilling on your passenger seat or wherever you decide to put the food. So it's definitely good to have an insulated bag. Also, what you can do, especially for Uber, where you take pictures before you drop off the food, is you can put the bag next to the item on the doorstep or wherever you drop it off, take a photo, and then people will see that you kept the food in a bag, and they may tip you even better because they know that you're insulating the food well. None of the apps give you a bag for free. Doordash gives you a couple things like a mask and like a cloth bag. This is just something you're gonna have to buy on your own. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to do more videos like this in the future to help you guys out. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.